Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Two high-profile events have thrust Native Americans into the immigration crackdown debate. A Salt River Pima woman in Iowa says she is still puzzled by an attempt by county officials to hand her over to federal immigration officers for deportation. Her family mounted a swift public campaign to keep that from happening. And a tribe in Washington state announced they won't help out with housing immigration detainees. We'll dive into those issues right after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Brian Bull, sitting in for Antonia Gonzalez. Hundreds of evacuees from western Alaska are staying in Anchorage hotels after last month's storms destroyed their homes. Alona Naiden with the Alaska Desk spoke to a few families who are adjusting to their new daily lives so far away from everything they know.
Ellie Schengen's room at the Wingate Hotel in Anchorage is crowded. On one bed, she sits with her 2-year-old daughter. Her partner sits on another while their children play nearby.
Small space.
Schengen and her family are among around 650 evacuees from western Alaska who are staying in Anchorage after being displaced by a devastating storm last month. State and federal agencies are working to rebuild the affected villages, but for many, returning before winter is not an option.
Moving here with our family is okay, but it's not okay. I want to go home.
For Schengen's 9-year-old daughter, Caitlin, that means homeschooling, so she can help her parents take care of her siblings. Schengen says the family gets breakfast every day, but the hotel room has no kitchen, so they order fast food for the remaining meals.
They are used to home-cooked meals all the time. They're used to the native food and stuff what we eat.
Julia Tutak-Stone is Kipnik's police officer and another evacuee. She is staying at the Aspen Hotel in Anchorage, along with her 2 adult sons and young grandsons, each family in their own room.
It was going to be heartbreaking if they didn't come with me.
Stone says the hotel provides them with free meals and snacks. She takes buses to go to the store and to play bingo. And her grandsons attend the UPIC immersion program at College Gate Elementary School. Her son, Alexei Ahumkathak-Stone, says
they're enjoying their stay here. It's not fun for me, that's for sure, because it's not my kind of life. My life was subsistence.
Back at the Wingate, Schengen says her family has been looking at apartments already. They even filled out paperwork to receive assistance for rent.
But some of us are tired of waiting.
The family especially liked a 2-bedroom apartment they looked at. Schengen says it was big enough for the older children to share their own room.
My family will be happy. I'll be happy because I'll be able to cook my family food.
Schengen already knows what their first meal will be. A rice dish baked in an oven with meat and seasonings. She says that will be enough for the whole family. In Anchorage, I am Alona Naiden.
More than 100 winter items and more than $15,000 were collected this week during a winter coat drive at the National Congress of American Indians annual convention in Seattle. Attendees brought in new coats and other cold weather essentials, from gloves to scarves to hats. The items will help support unsheltered Native people in the city and will also benefit evacuees in Alaska affected by last month's devastating storm. The Seattle Indian Health Board was among organizations that teamed up with NCAI on the coat drive. Abigail Echohawk is the Executive Vice President of the Health Board.
It's really important for us as Native people to come, when we come to areas and we think about how we contribute not just to the local economies, but to the people itself. And so here in Seattle, we have a very large unhoused population. Native people in the Seattle area are 10 times more likely than non-Hispanic whites to live unhoused on the streets of Seattle. And organizations like the Seattle Indian Health Board, United Indians of All Tribes, we work with a lot of these relatives. Having a coat drive really allows us to get some really high quality, nice things out to our communities, both our unhoused relatives and also for our youth and folks who are in need of a nice warm coat in a cold Seattle winter.
Echohawk says distribution of the winter items will begin as soon as her organization receives the donations from NCAI. This is National Native News. I'm Brian Bull.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by AARP, whose Family Caregiver Resource Guide is available to caregivers by calling 877-333-5885 or at aarp.org/caregiver-resources.
Need an actionable plan to achieve your goals? Kaufman & Associates strengthens Native organizations through culturally grounded strategic planning. More at kaufmaninc.com. KAUFFMANINC.com.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. For a short time, tribal citizen Leticia Jacobo thought she might be deported. She's a member of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community in Arizona and presented documentation proving that. After extensive pushback by her family, tribal officials, and others, law enforcement officials figured out the decision to hand her over to immigration officials was a clerical error. The incident sheds light on what legal experts and tribal leaders have been cautioning tribal citizens about since the Trump administration's crackdown on immigrants. In this hour, we'll hear Jacobo's story and more about what tribal sovereignty means in the midst of heightened federal immigration activity and operations. We'll also discuss other places where tribes and immigration cross paths. Join our conversation by calling 1-800-996-2848. That's also 1-800-99-NATIVE. We'd like to hear your thoughts on current immigration policies and their impact on Native people. Give us a call, 1-800-996-2848. Joining us now from Des Moines, Iowa, is Leticia Jacobo. She's a citizen of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Leticia, hello, and welcome to Native America Calling.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Joining us from Mesa, Arizona is Maria Nunez. She is Leticia's aunt, and she's also a member of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Good morning, Maria. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Joining us from Seattle, Washington is Gabe Galanda. He is a managing lawyer at Galanda Broadman and a member of the Round Valley Indian Tribe. Good morning, Gabe. Great to have you back on the show.
Good morning from Seattle, Sean. Great to be with you.
And joining us from Fairbanks, Alaska is David Leslie. He's an Inupiaq activist and a shareholder of the Nana Regional Corporation. Good morning, David. Welcome to Native America Calling.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have all of you on the show today. Leticia, I want to begin with you, and let's talk about this incident. You were being held in a county jail in Iowa on another charge. At what point did you learn that you would be turned over to immigration officials? What went through your mind?
Yeah, so I was, excited to get out and see some family, and I was informed that I was maybe not getting released due to an ICE hold. It was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it, and yeah, it was a lot to wrap my head around, and I just didn't understand at the moment. And yeah, it was a really difficult moment for me to try to understand and just think what was going to go happen to me. So
now, obviously, this was a mix-up on their part. Did you get any sense that the people in charge were working to fix this error quickly? They identified it as a clerical issue. How did you feel about just the whole process? Do you feel you were getting fair treatment there?
Absolutely not. They're really unhelpful. I feel like it's more like, it was just an error and like kind of brushed it off. Definitely no sympathy or no explanation, and they're just kind of like, oh well, you're okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and brush it off. So
what forms of ID did the people in charge have for you? What were they using?
Well, I had Iowa State ID, my tribal, I believe my social was also in my wallet, yeah, I had my whole wallet with me. You know, all kinds of different identification cards.
Do you always travel with your tribal ID, and how did they respond to that when they saw it?
Um, well, yes, I always have my tribal ID on me. We just always have it. But actually, I didn't get no response. You know, they kind of just kind of laughed at it, chuckled here and there at it. So it made me more furious about the situation because I didn't think it was so funny. So.
Were you able to communicate with your family or anyone else throughout this whole ordeal?
Yes, my mother. I kept in touch with my mother while everything was going on. But other than that, I was limited to communication on the outs just due to the my phone use in jail. So.
Now, coincidentally, Leticia, this all occurred on Valentine's Day, which of course is a federal holiday. Did that complicate the issue?
I feel like it did. You know, with the holiday being on that day, it felt like it was delaying the process, and it was a little harder to get information and get things going. So, you know, there was a lot of offices closed and stuff. So.
Leticia, what finally got through to the authorities? When did they realize they made a mistake?
I think honestly, if it wasn't for my mom, you know, being on things, they would have never. I don't think they'll never realize they made a mistake. So you know, it was all, you know, thanks to my mother calling down to the jail and getting information. Otherwise, you know, I don't think they would ever realize they made a you know, a error until it was probably too late.
Now, it is important to note that you were never handed over to ICE. In fact, the department released a statement saying this was all a hoax. You were never in any danger of being deported. Looking back, do you feel there's any room to cut the law enforcement officials some slack with regard to how they handled your situation?
Well, yeah, that is true about the whole thing, but then again, you know, it's still unacceptable, and I honestly still don't even know how to feel about it, you know. But yeah, I just feel like it's not okay still, and I feel like they need to be more careful. Like, this is unacceptable, and yeah.
It sounds like, in your view, then, the situation hasn't been totally resolved from your standpoint. What would you like to see happen going forward? What would it take to feel that this situation is completely resolved, you have closure on it?
Well, you know, you know, I give it a little bit of closure, but still, I just wanted, you know, for my voice to be heard and for this, you know, not to happen again, or to any of our people again. I feel like the system needs to be more careful, and that's it. An apology would have been nice or something, you know, instead of calling it a silly mistake and, you know, just trying to sweep it off and act like nothing happened. So.
Sure, I understand, Leticia. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to talk to your aunt now and get her insights as well. And the phone lines are open for any listeners who would like to jump in here. If this situation you're hearing about now with Leticia concerns you, it alarms you, it prompts a response from you, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call, 1-800-99-NATIVE. Maria Nunez joins us now from Mesa, Arizona. And Maria, you were more than 1,000 miles away when you got word of what was happening with Leticia in Iowa. What were your initial thoughts?
Yes, my initial thoughts were we got to do something fast. It was a very shocking, scary experience. You don't think that ever's going to happen to you, you know, and being so far away from home, it was hard for her to even get a hold of her own tribe to get help. It was Veterans Day that day. My sister gave my mother a call and stated that my niece was on a ICE hold over at the Polk County Jail in Des Moines, Iowa. And here we're thinking, oh, they'll find out, they'll get the error and know that she's Native American. We'll give, and they didn't. Apparently, my niece was on a ICE hold in the detention center for over a week. She had no idea she was on an ICE hold for a week already when she was detained. And like she said, she was thinking she's going to go home that midnight. Around 12 midnight, they start releasing them. If it wasn't for my sister to check on her and go check on timing of release, because she wanted to be there to pick her up, so she didn't have any more, wait. She was anxious to get home and, see family. And they told her she was not going to be released because she had an immigration hold. My sister was a little confused and asking why, and really confused because she knew that my niece been there before. She's had a few tickets before, nothing major, but she had her tribal ID on her. She had her whole belongings, her wallet. When you go into custody, they mark down those type of things that you have in your property. They mark down what you brought in and what you have in your property. So it was a little confusing to us of why they had that on her. But, being a holiday and everything, we didn't have much room or time to move. Now, that night of Veterans Day at midnight, she was going to be removed from the detention center, signing release papers, thinking she's getting released, but she was going to be signing release papers to get probably deported to ICE detention, and then deported from there to we don't know where. So I'm just really blessed and happy that we all moved fast. I had my tribal members from my tribe here in Salt River just really move with the media. Like, the media really just did their thing. I couldn't go down to the courts or the offices to get any documents because everything was closed. Everyone was just reaching out like, hey, here's an address. Go knock on the door. This is a council's, residence. If you have to, write them. It was just, it was really touching. It really was.
Okay. Thanks for coming on the show, Maria. We're going to take a short break here. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation. Leticia Jacobo, citizen of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, dealing with a legal issue in Iowa. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Cherokee writer Vanessa Lilly takes readers on a new suspenseful ride in her novel The Bone Thief. It's the sequel to her best-selling mystery Blood Sisters. And Brandon Hobson tells a captivating tale with surrealistic detours in The Devil is a Southpaw. Both authors join us to add to our native bookshelf on the next Native America Calling.
The Indian Arts and Crafts Act protects authentic American Indian and Alaska Native artists and craftspeople and their art and craftwork. Under the Act, it is illegal to market art or craftwork misrepresented as American Indian, Native American, or Alaskan Native made, or as the product of a particular Indian tribe. Reporting potential Act violations can be done at doi.gov/IACB or at 1-888-ART-FAKE. Support provided by Indian Arts and Crafts Board.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. We are talking with Leticia Jacobo and her aunt, Maria Nunez. Leticia was told by law enforcement officials that she would be handed over to federal immigration officials. That prompted a campaign by her family to call attention to what to them was an obvious mistake. Jacobo is a citizen of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Do you take added precaution in the current environment when it comes to the immigration crackdown? Give us a call. We'd like to hear from you. 1-800-996-2848. And we do have a couple of callers on the line right now. But first, I want to go back to Leticia's aunt, Maria Nunez. And Maria, tribal officials were notified both in the state of Iowa and also in Arizona. Did you contact Salt River Pima tribal officials immediately when you found out what was going on?
Yeah, yes, I did. Like I said, my family members were shooting me numbers and, options and where to turn to on a holiday. So I did reach out. I did call the police station here in Salt River to see if I could talk to the chief of police. I was told he could probably assist me or my niece being so far away. So, yes, I did.
Okay, let's go ahead and take Daniel, who is listening online in Tempe, Arizona. Good morning, Daniel. You are on the air.
Hello, good morning. No, I was just listening to the whole conversation. I'm an Indigenous student here at Arizona State University, and it's very scary because you hear about all these encounters with ICE, and being a student, you have to go around to get your essentials, your food, and you're scared because you just don't know because they might just pick you up for many reasons. So I don't really go out anymore because I'm terrified of getting caught. I do have my tribal ID, so.
Have you heard of any other similar situations to what Leticia has had to go through?
I heard about a few encounters. I definitely hear about people getting questions in downtown Phoenix area, near light rails. You just don't know because it's scary nowadays.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in. Really appreciate you chiming into our conversation. Next up, we have Mike, who is listening in Buffalo Springs on station KGLP. Hello, Mike.
Oh, yes, Sean. I just wanted to share with you that what's going on down in Phoenix in the area is nothing new. Back in the early 2000s, when Governor Jan Brewer was in charge of Arizona, she was doing the same thing, cracking down on illegal immigrants or questioning people. And my sister and her husband, unfortunately, lived on 36th Street and McDowell Road when they were stopped and detained and questioned back then about their ethnicity. And they had to, after that, they had to carry around their CIB to show that they were indigenous and native. And to top that off, they lived right across from a Home Depot and down there in the valley area, all over the valley down there in Phoenix. Every Home Depot or Lowe's discount or something like that, you always find Hispanics, Latinos, or people looking for day jobs or some kind of work. So it's nothing new what's going on down there today. And the Navajo Nation, I know that we did have our own, they had a campaign and we started and we got our own, as I call it, our own green card. And it was actually a green card, like the size of a standard driver's license. And it had all our information on there and stuff like that, tribal ID and stuff. So I was commenting that when you leave the res, make sure you take your green card and your immunization record, because it's not just because you're could be suspect because you're brown, but because, like the girl said in the movie, you're going into a whole different country called the United States of America. So you need to make sure you got your ID and your
Mike.
immunization record.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Mike. The Navajo green card. That's interesting to hear about for sure. And let's talk a little bit more about Native Americans and what forms of identification we should be using in situations like that. We have Gabe Galanda on the show. He is an attorney. He's in Seattle, Washington. And Gabe, I mean, let's begin here with Leticia's situation. She had her tribal ID. Is that an accepted form of citizenship when it comes to immigration enforcement?
Well, it should be, and I haven't tracked this issue that carefully recently, but at one point you could use your tribal ID under federal law to, for example, go through TSA. So if it's good for TSA, it should be good for ICE and Homeland Security. It should be good for the federal government whenever it needs to verify that a tribal citizen is in fact a tribal citizen.
Okay. What's your advice then for tribal citizens who find themselves in these situations, questioned or confronted by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
Well, the gentleman that was just on the phone from Phoenix or from Navajo had it right, which is to make sure that tribal citizens are carrying all forms of tribal identification, and it could be a tribally issued identification card. It could be a certificate of Indian blood issued by the federal government or a tribal government. But individuals should have that in their wallets, in their purses, on their persons at all times to present to ICE officers to indicate that not only are they tribal, but they are naturally born to these lands and should not be caught up in any of what ICE is up to. It was also helpful to hear that the Salt River tribe interceded for the young relative out in Iowa, I believe. Tribes need to be more proactive in providing information to their people, and there needs to be some clearinghouse for inquiry within tribal governments and systems for people like her, so that when these moments happen, there's somebody to call, and the tribal government can immediately intercede on behalf of its people with ICE.
Okay, thank you, Gabe. I want to go back to Maria, because tell me a little bit more, Maria, about what support you were able to receive from not only your own Salt River Pima tribal officials, but also the Meskwaki tribe of Iowa, who's located there in Tama, Iowa, about an hour away from Des Moines. They were helpful as well, I understand.
Yes, they were. They were very helpful. They reached out to me right away and stated where they were from and what they could help with. They were willing to drive down there to the Iowa Polk County and start protesting and make sure that my niece was not taken out of that facility and transferred to ICE. So they were very, very, very helpful. And I'm just grateful that we have a lot of Native Americans that are ready to jump and fight.
Tell me a little bit more about just the activities you folks have been involved with, Maria, in terms of just getting the word out and making sure that this situation is made public. How has that all worked out for you, and what types of organizations have you connected with, and what kind of feedback are you getting just from other Native people who are hearing about this situation and they're concerned?
Well, everyone is just very supportive and still reaching out until today. They want to help Leticia move forward and spread her word and just be aware of, we're all brown, I guess you can say that, and we're all going to be targeted because the way we look. And even though that, we come from a strong tribe, like they said, we still have to carry our documents because it's a scary situation, and you never know when you're going to be approached. You could be walking out the grocery store, you could be at the laundromat, you name it, schools. I worry about my kids. I have 5 boys that are young, and they go to school, so I worried about them getting IDs or papers or some kind of documents. And, it's a scary situation for us, all of us, and I just want it to stop already. It's frustrating, and we should not have to worry about carrying our whole life in our pocket just to be safe, so that we don't have to get deported or be targeted or even arrested, because it's frustrating. It really is. And I just feel like this needs to stop already.
Maria, this has become an international incident. I mean, headlines all over the world have covered this story. Have you and your family and Leticia had to endure any negative comments or unwanted attention?
We do get the negative comments, of course, on social media. It went really viral. It went Twitter. It went, you name it. You look it up and you'll see it everywhere. Of course, we get the bad comments and the ones that don't agree with us, trying to do the lawsuit and about a mistake and an error, and we shouldn't take it that far and she didn't get taken away. No, it's still a big thing to us. We are still going to move forward. We're fighting for our rights. And my niece was almost taken out of this country somewhere. We wouldn't even probably know where she was taken to. Because if you call ICE, they don't give you that information. They don't update you. They don't even let them call. So it's a very scary situation. And a lot of media got a hold of me, like radio stations, newspaper, News Channel 3, you name it. I did a newscast the other week with my cousin because she was very helpful, and she just really spread the word, and she's the one that got it all the way to Omaha, Nebraska, and then from Omaha, Nebraska, it went all the way to Iowa. So it was very, very, very heartwarming to know that we had a lot of support and we were not alone with or without the offices being open on Veterans Day. So they just wanted to reassure us that they were doing everything they can on their behalf, giving me pointers, who to talk to, who to call. You've never been in this situation, so you're not prepared for this. I'm definitely prepared now. I have numbers and names written down, and but it was very scary. It really was, and it don't hit you until it hits home, and it really hit home, and it's just. I just want everybody to be aware of your surroundings, what you're signing, even in hospitals, you name it, clinics. You just got to be careful what you're signing and what you're doing. It's not a safe world.
Okay, Maria. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing all this information, and Leticia as well. Really appreciate you both. And Gabe, I want to go back to you because here it is. It's 2025, Gabe, and Social Security numbers and driver's licenses and tribal IDs and technology. I still don't understand how mixed up like this can really occur. And thankfully, Leticia wasn't deported, but she could have been. And who knows what would have happened at that point. What kind of federal records are on file along the way? You would think somebody would be able to check at some point and just, nip this in the bud before it got to this point.
Yeah, you would think, and I don't know what kind of information sharing exists. I only know it in sort of the negative light, which is ICE, for example, here in Washington, tapping into state databases to identify undocumented people. But you would think, on a healthier basis, if you will, that there should be information sharing between the federal government and the state government to confirm that somebody is in fact, lawfully here, is a lawful state resident, as it relates to tribes, as a lawful tribal resident. I would add to the prior comments that in addition to tribal ID, your state-issued ID should be on you at all times. Our sister there, the auntie, has it right. You have to have all of this information at the ready in the event this moment presents itself.
Okay. Gabe, what about if someone they're at home, they're on tribal land? Can ICE just come on to tribal land now whenever they want?
I would say no. Under international law, you can't enter another nation's lands without the permission of the host nation. Under ICE's own policies and protocols, at a minimum, they need to consult with a tribal nation before stepping foot on tribal land or into that home. Perhaps they would need to go through a tribal court process to make sure that a warrant was issued or some other permission was granted before that occurred. And there are also treaties that prevent the United States from coming onto land generally in matters of criminal investigation or investigation into violations of federal law without the consent of the tribal treaty signatory. So whether it's international law, ICE's and Homeland Security's own protocols, or treaties, no.
Okay. All right. Well, tribal IDs, state issue IDs, Native folks, sounds like we really need to have our credentials with us at all times now. So just word to the wise. And Gabe, I want to talk with you about another issue. The Nisqually tribe made headlines recently. They issued a statement that they would not house ICE detainees. It was in response to a news report that the department was talking with a Nisqually corrections staff member. This has to do with detention facilities. What can you tell us about what happened there?
Yeah, I don't speak for Nisqually, and I have not spoken to Nisqually. But from what I understand from news reports, which you allude to, most notably a Seattle Times story that broke last Friday, ICE reached out to the Nisqually Tribal Corrections Facility, some staff at that facility, and inquired about the possibility of detaining undocumented or immigrant people in the tribal detention facility. It appears ICE did not follow its own protocols or sort of common government-to-government protocols by reaching out to elected tribal leadership of Nisqually. And when Nisqually leadership got word of this, they immediately shut it down and issued a statement indicating, generally speaking, that ICE was not welcome to do business within their detention facility or on their lands.
Gabe, is this common for tribal correctional facilities to house ICE detainees? I mean, is ICE actively looking for partnerships with tribes that have correctional facilities or detention facilities?
It's not common. I think it's an issue of first impression, at least here in the greater 48. Nisqually did suggest in its statement that it was aware that ICE had reached out to other tribes with detention facilities, and I don't know who those other tribes are, but it raises real complicated issues of concern, not the least of which is what rights do undocumented or immigrant people have when detained by ICE and in turn detained by a tribal detention facility and then housed in a tribal detention facility. Because the United States Constitution's Bill of Rights does not attach to tribal lands or to tribal governments. So there is a host of issues, human rights issues and civil rights issues, that would arise in the event ICE convinced a tribe to allow use of a tribal detention facility for housing those people.
Okay, I want to read a disclaimer. We did reach out to the Nisqually tribe, and their media representative said that the tribe is not giving any more interviews about this issue. And also, we had another caller, didn't want to come on the air, but did share a comment that their family doesn't want to come visit because they're afraid to drive across Arizona. All right, so anyone else feeling that way, feeling less secure, feeling less free right now? Native people concerned about how you could potentially be perhaps confused in some sort of an immigration mix-up? We'd like to hear from some more listeners. Give us a call, 1-800-99-NATIVE. That's the number to our Albuquerque studio, 1-800-99-NATIVE. Another short break, and we'll be right back.
Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Omye.
Need an actionable plan to achieve your goals? Kaufman & Associates strengthens Native organizations through culturally grounded strategic planning. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
This is Native America Calling, and we're talking about tribes and federal immigration today. Do you know if your tribe has a contract with the federal government to help ICE activities? We'll hear shortly from a NANA Regional Corporation shareholder who is speaking out against that organization's contracts to run ICE detention centers. And you can join our conversation, 1-800-996-2848. And we have our Indigenous rights lawyer, Gabe Galanda, on the show. Gabe Galanda, excuse me, Gabe, I'm sorry. And I want to ask you, Gabe, one more question before we bring David Leslie, the Regional Corporation shareholder, into the conversation. And do you know of any other issues right now or potential clashes between tribes and immigration officials, Gabe?
Tell you, I've heard from relatives on a number of reservations here in Washington State who feel the deep fear that we've talked about on this call, that somebody in their tribal community could be apprehended by ICE, or even somebody that has been welcomed into their community, married into their community, perhaps Latino relatives, that they could be apprehended from tribal lands. And it's had a chilling effect. We know ICE, at least according to what I've heard, has entered upon casino floors looking for undocumented people. I know up north of here, there's typically a swap meet, which is like a flea market run by a tribal member on the Tulalip Indian Reservation. And people are not now attending that. Typically, Latino people would attend that, I think, on the weekend to sort of buy, trade, barter.
Okay.
That swap meet may not be happening because people are just afraid of the presence of ICE. So it's caused deep fear and apprehension.
Gabe, let me ask you a question here, because you just mentioned ICE going onto casino floors, but yet earlier we had talked about, can ICE agents just walk onto tribal land? So I'm not sure. It sounds like in some situations they can, or are they getting permission to do that?
I don't think they're getting permission. I don't have the facts of that situation. I've only heard it secondhand. But in the event that has happened and they did not notify tribal authorities and seek permission or consult with them about what they were going to do on tribal land and on casino premises, they violated policy, procedure, and federal law.
All right. Gabe Galanda, Indigenous rights attorney, joining us here on Native America Calling today. And I want to bring David Leslie into our conversation now. He is an Inupiaq activist and a shareholder of the NANA Regional Corporation. He joins us now from Fairbanks, Alaska. David, NANA Corporation administers a federal contract to run several ICE detention facilities, and you have now spoken up against your regional Alaska Native Corporation's decision to work with ICE. What do you know about this relationship between NANA and current immigration enforcement?
Well, all of these different Alaska Native corporations have been getting contracts with the federal government for the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Defense for many years now. This started in the Obama era. And the attention on them comes and goes. This year in February, The Guardian reported that NANA is running an ICE detention center in Guantanamo Bay. And that brought this back up into discussion. Then reports about NANA running the Chrome Detention Center in Florida and the allegations of human rights abuses there, along with the Batavia Detention Center in New York State. And the conditions there have just, they've kept up in the news, and it's getting, it looks worse and worse every day.
David, as a shareholder yourself, what information about the federal contract is available to you? How much transparency is there?
There is very little transparency. This is actually considered a loophole, that these Alaska Native Corporation contracts have less oversight than other private companies. NANA will tell us how much money Akima, the subsidiary with these contracts, makes overall, but they don't tell us exactly. We have these contracts in these states for these facilities. A lot of times they don't even tell us what the CEOs of these subsidiaries are making, and we have to rely on outside journalists to find that information for us.
What are the economic benefits? You mentioned earlier you do have some of that information with regard to revenues from these facilities, but obviously NANA working as a federal contractor to manage or in some cases provide security services to these ICE detention facilities sounds like it's probably pretty lucrative.
Yes, they make millions of dollars. NANA is at its most profitable right now. It's a multi-billion-dollar Native corporation. We know that the CEO made 7.9. The CEO of Akima, the subsidiary, made $7.9 million last year. Meanwhile, us shareholders, we do get dividends. NANA usually does 2 a year. They also have a separate elders dividend, but the average for that is $3,000 per shareholder. And me as someone who's younger, I get a lot less. The dividends coming out today are the first time it's enough for me to pay rent with it. Usually it doesn't even cover 1 month's rent.
Okay. How many shareholders does NANA have?
It has over 15,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have a caller on the line in Sitka, Alaska, but first I do want to share another disclaimer. We did reach out to NANA Regional Corporation. They were unable to provide anyone to be interviewed here for our show today. Just want to let our listeners know that. Let's hear now from Sonia, who is listening online in Sitka, Alaska. Good morning, Sonia. You're on the air.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to thank you so much for this, all this reporting about ICE. All this is information that is new in some ways because of how remote we are. We're just on a little rock here in Alaska. We call it the Rock. But I don't even know where to start.
Well, Sonia, let me ask you a question. Are you an Alaska Native Corporation shareholder?
Yes, I am. I'm with the Alaska, but this, the Native politics is a real beast here in Alaska, and a lot of, I'm right in there with David Leslie, and I'm, as a shareholder, am just now finding out some information, and my mind is just blown away
by the truth of what exactly we're involved in, and we don't even know about it as shareholders. That's how much of a lack of information we have. And my heart really goes out to the gal who was taken by ICE and her family that was impacted. And the good thing about Indian country is news flies really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so that story, I think, circulated effectively to all of us. But my question that I want to get to here is, now that we're finding out as shareholders exactly how much we're involved in these contracts, and I've been asking, as a shareholder, I've been asking these questions for quite a while and just going in circles. And it's really frustrating because we have 12 corporations here in Alaska. NANA is regional to the northern part. We're in the southern region of Alaska. So my question is, now that we're finding out about it, if we are if we start to challenge the hierarchy or the big guys, who never talk to us, they've gotten to this level of where it's impossible to have direct communication, to be able to have the latitude of covering these issues.
Sonia, it sounds like to me you're concerned about potential repercussions for shareholders who might challenge a corporation, Alaska Native Corporation, over an issue like this. I really thank you for calling in, Sonia. And I'd like to have David Leslie respond to that because, David, obviously you have spoken out publicly. Are other shareholders, like what we're hearing from Sonia, are they concerned about what could happen for making these views public?
Speaking out about this has been one of the most terrifying things I've ever done. I know people, especially in the villages, are scared to talk to journalists. And even though they don't support these contracts, they're scared to speak up. There are so many other Alaska Native corporations, both village and regional, that have these ICE and Department of Defense contracts. This is really a statewide issue, and the next step would be to propose bylaw or policy changes to the boards of these corporations and get them to vote on them. But once we propose that, and let's say they vote to not change their bylaws, what do we do then? And when you're proposing changes that do financially affect Native people up here, especially when the cost of living is so high, people will get very angry, and that it's going to be a divisive issue, and it is terrifying.
David, can you give us a little bit more history on how these government contracts came about?
Yeah. So my understanding is the late Senator Ted Stevens in the Obama era, they created this new rule called the 8A law, and that gives a federal preference for minority-owned and small businesses. So NANA is considered a multi-billion-dollar small business, and these Native corporations get first dibs at federal contracts. And all of these different Alaska Native corporations are actually competing with each other for these contracts. Some of them are like NANA running the ICE detention centers. Some are providing janitorial services or doing the housekeeping and food. There's also some that are involved in drone programs in Saudi Arabia. It is truly wild, the amount of things these Native corporations are involved in.
Okay, thank you, Dave. We have another caller on the line, also in Sitka, Alaska. This is Clarice, who's listening to KNBA Radio Online. Good morning, Clarice. What's your comment?
Good morning. First, I want to thank you for providing this opportunity for people to talk about the issues, and especially to David Leslie for bringing this into the public eye. I think I am a Sea Alaska Sciatica shareholder and also Clinton Haida tribal citizen. And I'm wondering what specific actions, I think he may have covered this mostly already, but how can shareholders pressure corporations or maybe more importantly, educate other shareholders? And did he find when he did the protests outside the shareholder meeting, were shareholders aware of the activities that NANA was participating in? I know as a member of Clinton and Haida, many citizens are unaware of their 8A contracts at Guantanamo Bay and are surprised when I mention it. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, thank you, Clarice. Great questions here. David, what have you learned? I mean, how knowledgeable are most of the shareholders with regard to this issue with the detention facilities or any other issues potentially with regard to how the corporation is doing business?
So many shareholders and also just non-native people are discovering about these contracts. We did have a protest outside the NANA informal shareholder meeting here in Fairbanks, and people were coming up and asking, why are you holding signs that say divest? And, some of us participated in this protest, and then we also went into the meeting and we gave comment to, there was a couple hundred shareholders in there, and bringing up these, not just the fact that we have these contracts, but the allegations of human rights abuses and civil rights abuses really opened up people's eyes. Every time there's a new story, especially by these national reporters, it makes people in the villages talk about it even more. And it's a slow process, but it is getting more and more widespread, the knowledge of what these contracts are and how they affect us as Native people.
Okay. And David, the management of these ICE detention facilities, this is not a new contract. So I want to ask you, this current crackdown that we're seeing on immigration, to what extent does that change your view with regard to the corporation's involvement? Were you always concerned about this contract, or has it really only been recently since all this has come about?
I've always been concerned. I've known that these kind of contracts have existed for a long time, but it is the use of ICE to come after our constitutional rights in the rise of fascism that puts it in a whole new light and makes it more important that we address it. I'm worried that it's a matter of time until ICE detention, until us Alaska Natives are targeted by ICE agents, and I want to stop that before it can happen.
All right. One more quick question, David, and when we have to wrap up, what kind of feedback or what kind of communications are you getting from people who are familiar with your protests?
There's been so much support. People are really happy that we are speaking up. We've never heard of a protest at an Alaska Native corporation anywhere before, and we did a respectful, silent protest. And I'm hearing from Alaska Native Corporation shareholders all over that they want to see this kind of action become more common and hold our corporations accountable.
With that, we're going to have to wrap up our conversation. We are out of time, but I do want to thank all of our guests who joined us today: David Leslie, Gabe Galanda, Maria Nunez, and Leticia Jacobo. Join us tomorrow again for our regular feature on Native literature. We'll talk with Vanessa Lilly, author of the new thriller The Bone Thief, and Brandon Hobson, author of the novel The Devil is a Southpaw. Hope you'll tune in. Until then, I'm your host, Sean Spruce, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oumumanyaga Kokotamaki Makai Kosmaimo Asmasma Uchichika Guipi Mumkita Cancer Tastio Asapu Muhuja Ambite Smati Monique Healthcare.gov/coverage Amaguga the Kumako Gigi Sikor Y Kumako Gigi Gok Hutas Humuk Ju Ida Amjet Himaka Medicare to Medicaid Hajipka.
Every family caregiver could use help finding the necessary resources to care for their loved one. The AARP Family Caregiver Resource Guide helps family caregivers access key programs, services, and agencies in their communities. A copy of the guide is available by calling 877-333-5885 or online at aarp.org/caregiverresources. AARP supports this show.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Quantic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.